Welcome into House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me as always is Gilbert Manzano, who does it for Sports Illustrated, MMQB. Gilbert, we're here on the post-game show for the Rams, and the Rams fall to 1-3 as they lose to the Bears 24-18. No comeback magic in this game for Stafford. An up and down game for the Rams here. Just some things look good, some things didn't. Just wanted to get your quick takeaways of this loss to the Bears.
Yeah, well, first of all, hopefully Rams fans are over the ugly loss and come join us here on House of Horns. If you can't get over it, that's okay. We'll give you some time, watch the replay, comment then. But yeah, I forced Victor to wait for me, and after an ugly loss like that, I'm wondering how many people are going to be on here, or how will they react. Maybe it's okay. You get to cool off. You don't get to
Yes.
overreact from being 1-3, but I gotta say I'm not too surprised. Not because I kept saying like, oh, I hate how people always favor Sean McVay and they're gonna take the Rams. I know you saw more Bears prediction. I feel like I saw a lot of Rams prediction, and that was kind of like
Yep.
a red flag. But I'm not too surprised. We mentioned it in a House of Horns. Sluggish outing, a team dealing with injuries, coming off a high from doing everything they can to beat the 49ers. Like it just felt like a trap game. And they still kind of hung around, because the Bears have their own problems offensively. It felt like a typical Bears game where good enough defense. You kind of scraped the bottom of the barrel for the offense there. You probably watched that game more than I did. It was
Yeah.
ugly, but I know DeAndre Swift did something there. Caleb Williams was making enough plays at the end to extend plays, and that's going to be the issue there for the Rams. Is the defense? I think we know by now that Chris Shula's defense is not doing well. I don't want to say not good. It's still early, but we are in the first quarter mark of the season. But it just felt like to kind of summarize it in a simple term, it felt like the injuries caught up to them. Like when you needed Puka Nakua
Yeah.
and Cooper Cup, it felt like okay, you needed those guys. Even the guys on the offensive line, it just seemed like okay, after everything that went perfectly in terms in SoFi against the 49ers, it felt like it just kind of was like, okay, you needed a little bit of a letdown. But yeah, I am curious to see how people react to this one.
Yeah, I just thought that you know it's hard to say this, but I felt like Sean McVay made some questionable calls in this game that cost him the game. Um, you take a look; they took the lead there in the first half, Gilbert, and then instead of running the ball, they try a deep pass, which the Bears defense takes advantage of. They force a fumble on Matthew Stafford, and then it just seems like the Bears took the momentum right after that, and they never looked back. I thought a couple things too, Gilbert, to mention here. The Rams were 1-4 in the red zone. You're not gonna win that way. You should run the ball in the red zone. It's just a head scratcher every time you see the Rams in the red zone and they don't run the ball. The one time they were successful, guess what happened? They ran the ball with Kyron Williams. The Bears went 2-4 in the red zone. That's where the difference was. And a lot. I'll say this in terms of the defense. The defense I thought played much better than what it looked like out there. Brandon Fix got his first career sack. That was awesome to see. The pressure was there. Josh Carty, especially with the special teams, yeah, he missed his first field goal, but he also hit his career long of 52 yards. He went 4 for 5 in this game. I just felt like this game came down to Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, and it just felt like they lost the game. Like Matt Eberflus even gave you a chance. There were some mistakes there by Matt Eberflus where I was just like shaking my head, like, what are you doing here? Like he declined a penalty on second down there late in the game, in the second half, I should say. And then changed his mind because somebody had to remind me, hey, take the 10 yards here, and instead that they because of that they ended up the Rams were backed up and they missed a field goal. I mean, that's the kind of stuff where you're like Matt Eberflus, like he gave you a chance here and you didn't take advantage of it. So I think this game is on Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford for me.
Yeah, no, I like that. That way, you can focus on the offense, and I'm gonna harp a little more on the defense because, yeah, they got some pressure, they got some push, but I kept saying like you're gonna face one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, and it didn't feel like an impact defense, and that's what I wanted from this so-called, homegrown talent. They're doing so well post Aaron Donald. You like, where the impact plays, and that's what I wanted to see from this defense. And then Vic, I'm not gonna let the secondary off the hook. Like Caleb Williams
Yeah.
missed a lot of throws. Like if it wasn't for Caleb,
Yes.
overthrowing passes, especially early in the first half where he was, a little rocky. These guys were open. DJ Moore, Roma Duzia. So uh, Caleb Williams needs to work on that. And from the Bears perspective, he's missing too many throws. You see Jaden Daniels, he's freaking accurate. So you're playing the Commanders, today, you would have got burned a couple times. So they got lucky breaks there. I just need to see more impact from the young defense in front where you had kind of a favorable matchup. And then I got to see the secondary improve. I haven't seen anything, and they
Yeah.
got lucky today. So
Yeah.
you put that together, what you mentioned on the offense, and then on defense, and you get games like that where they're pretty ugly. They played, kind of a so-so Bears team, but the Bears were at home. And to Caleb Williams' credit, he was able to extend plays at the end of the game there to kind of get a little bit of a cushion. Yeah, that was a bonehead interception from Stafford. Hopefully, Tuta will continue to do what he's doing when these guys come back, like Puka and Cooper Cup. But I see some comments already. I know people are
Yeah.
frustrated. They do get the Packers at home next week, and the Packers, they didn't look the best, but they're still the Packers with Jordan Love.
Right.
So that's going to be a tough matchup there. So I don't want to look too far ahead. I just want to kind of focus on, yes, they have issues offensively, defensively, but a week after you beat the 49ers, it's one of those things where, like, you shouldn't overreact. You maybe look at the whole first quarter sample size.
Yeah, and I'm with you. And I thought, it's not more that the Bears won it or the Rams lost it. I felt like the Bears punter was MVP of this game. I mean, he had 5 punts for 277 yards, Gil. I mean, he had, I think, three of them that went 60 yards, and then he had three of them go inside the 20-yard line. I mean, Tory Taylor, hats off to him because he's the one that won this game for the Bears. It wasn't any, and then some of the execution by the Rams. I just didn't understand. Like I said, Gilbert, they were running the ball so well, which was my key with Kyron Williams, and you go away from it. I just don't understand. As I said, I mean, and then let's get to these comments because a lot of people are not happy with Sean McVay. We have G. Barisi says, can't see the Rams winning more than 4 games this year.
Oh,
And then the Worm, who we have in here, he's from out
yeah.
there in Wisconsin. He says, guys, McVay lost this game for us. The D was decent. The defense was decent, although White has been a tremendous bust. Let's
Yeah.
talk about McVay's red zone brain fog. Evan Holtz, who we also haven't heard from in a while. It's good to have you, Evan. It's not what I would say a heartbreaker, but it was close and it was disappointing. And then one last one from Delbert Salgado. Rams made fair fans very happy today. I'm disappointed to lose. Uh, we had our chances, boy. We got our backs to the wall. Got to run the table in the division. No excuses, puro cuernos, compas. So yeah, it's a lot of criticism there for Sean McVay, Gilbert.
Yeah, and to Angel's comment, I picked the Chiefs today, so I don't know what you're
Oh,
talking
here.
about with the
Sorry about
Chargers.
that. I missed that one.
But I did pick the Rams, so Rams fans could be mad at me, but hey, I got the Chiefs pick right. Take that, Angel.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a long season, but I do understand that when you get to the first quarter mark, issues become real. They're not like a one-time thing, and you know the Bears just have a way of making games ugly and boring, and that's why I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what, Vic, you could
I
maybe
told
lead
you
this
guys.
conversation here.
Yeah.
But go ahead if you want. I'll make a point there.
Yeah, and it was a terrible game, and they made it ugly, and we talked about this. We knew this was going to be the thing that happened. I mean, Matthew Stafford went 20 of 29 for 224 yards with one interception. He didn't have much of an impact in this game. Kyron Williams, I thought he was the guy that was writing, was the best player out there today for them. Was he ended up with 19 carries, 94 yards. I have to give a big shout out to Ronnie Rivers, Gilbert. He picked up the blitz a couple of times where Matthew Stafford could have gotten killed on some of those blitzes, and Ronnie Rivers and some of those runs that he had. I thought between Kyron Williams and Ronnie Rivers, I would have liked to have seen more of it. Tutu Atwell, 4 receptions, 82 yards. And Jordan Whittington, man, he looked good out there, Gilbert. Not only doing the dirty work, but also catching some passes out there. 6 receptions, 62 yards. And then one last thing we before we move on from the offense, Stafford moved into 10th place on the NFL's career passing yardage list, passing Eli Manning. I'm sure he doesn't care right now because it's a loss, but I just wanted to bring that up. And then one more thing, sorry, Kyron Williams scored a rushing touchdown for a seventh consecutive game. So as long as you keep feeding Kyron Williams, things will go well for you. But unfortunately, down in the red zone, they just I don't know why they just don't give him the ball.
Yeah, it's kind of felt like early season Rams offense last year, but kind of like in
Yeah.
a weird reverse order where like you didn't have Kyron Williams and now you do, but you don't have the wide receiver. So I don't know. Maybe there's something about Sean McVay that just kind of overthinks it when doesn't have his best players and he wants to try to scheme too hard for guys that you feel like, okay, maybe they need a little more help. And that could be something. I remember those red zone issues last year. It kind of feels somewhat like that. Maybe it's a little fitting that they're playing the Packers at home because remember that's when I really hit rock bottom with the Brett
Yeah.
Rippon game. So maybe there's something there to kind of on the positive front. Hey, make it right and do something there. But yeah, I know people are very frustrated with Sean McVay's red zone work, lack of running the football, not being consistent, and it all showed today. And you kind of put it into the Bears' hands. Like the Bears defense, I'm not gonna say they're the best defensive unit, but they're above average, so very good. They just have a knack of making games ugly. I think Stafford was lucky that there wasn't an interception earlier in the game. I think in the red zone, I forget what.
Yes, one of the defenders stepped out of bounds and
Yeah,
then did not set back. So they got lucky. They got
yeah.
3 points out of it. And then in the next possession, that was the one that they started the drive. Instead of running the ball there, they try to hit a 10 step drop, and then he gets sacked and he fumbles, and then the momentum goes out of the game there. And I just thought, like, for the most part, the Rams control this game until those turnovers started hitting him, and because they stopped running the ball.
Yeah, and I don't want to make excuses, but it kind of feels like, hey, like Stafford was the hero last week. He made it work
Yes,
with with
and
what
it
you mentioned,
happened.
scraps parts. And I'm looking at the defense, and I'm like, okay, you invested, first round pick Jared Verse, you invested a second round pick that you moved up to Braden Fisk, you invested some draft capital in Byron Young, and Kobe Turner. Like we're like honestly, Coven Turner hasn't really made like an impact. I know maybe it's the small things and he's just using the tackle, but you gotta have game changing plays. Like today, Chris Jones, making a presence felt. When you want to become a star, you don't need to be a football analyst to realize that guy is good. That guy's making TJ Watt very easy to see that he's making plays. And I know maybe it's unfair to expect rookies and second year guys to do it, but you need to grow up when Aaron Donald's not around. Also, you have a new first timer in Chris Shula, but you guys, for the most part, are healthy. Yeah, it sucks that you lost Ernest Jones, maybe your protector in the backfield. Yeah, Tre'Davious White, they can't turn back the clock. I just wanted to see more from this unit, and I expect a little better. And it's just the same mistakes over and over again, secondary wise at least. And then with the pressure up front, yeah, it's consistent, but it's not really changing plays. It's not
Yeah,
what Brian Flores' defense is doing, getting short fields for his offense, making life easier. Like when you have injuries like today, or maybe like an example with the Raider game. Nobody expected them to win without Devontae Adams and Max Crosby, but a bunch of weird plays occurred, game-changing plays,
yeah.
interceptions, pick sixes, special teams, and the Rams couldn't get that today. So sometimes you need stuff like that to go your way, and I just want to see the defense be able to do that a little more, grow up a little quicker when you need it. But I guess it's a little unfair, bad timing when you're young, and then a bunch of injuries occur on the offensive side.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I was really impressed with Jared Verse game this today. I thought he put a lot of pressure. He missed a sack there. And that's part of what you're saying is that you need to finish those sacks. You can't just put the pressure on there and not end up with the sack. There was a couple plays there where they should have sacked Caleb Williams. And yeah, they ended up with 3 or 4 sacks in this game. That was great, but man, those linebackers, Roseboom
Mhm.
and Reader just got demolished in the run game, Gilbert. I mean,
DeAndre Swift
part
woke up finally. I wonder
yes,
why.
and it was because they were getting the running the linemen were going to the second level, and they were picking up those 2 linebackers, and those 2 linebackers weren't doing anything. They were getting demolished out there. And yeah, to your credit, as you're saying, yeah, like between Fisk and Jared Verse, you can't just rely on them. Kobe Turner needs to step up. Byron Young, even Michael Hoyt had a sack in this game, and so they did the job in this game. But yeah, you need more from those guys up front because that's what's gonna help your bad secondary. Maybe they get Darius Williams back next week or for sure they'll have him back
What's that
after
really
the
gonna
bye week.
do though? I'm not expecting much
Yeah,
from him either, you know?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
rough.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and now they're 1-3, Gilbert, and I just saw this stat earlier from ESPN Stats and Info. Since the NFL went to a 17-game schedule in 2021, there have been 25 games start 1-3. Only three of those teams make the playoffs: Steelers, Patriots, Eagles, and all did it in 2021. So it's an uphill climb for this Rams team now, sitting at 1-3.
Yeah, it does help when you have that extra playoff spot. 7
Yes.
teams get in. You get that extra week to kind of recover. You get the trade deadline extended a little bit to maybe say, you know what, I think I believe in my squad. Let's make a trade right now. So it's not the end of the world when you go 1-3 in today's age with the things are set up now. But yeah, you got to pick it up after the first quarter. Now you know that okay, these are the real problems. These are real things we got to take care of. Injuries are going to happen. You got to make the most of it. Like today, I saw another shot here for Angel Kareem Hunt. Getting 69 yards for the Chiefs, and they just got out of the win there with the Chargers at SoFi Stadium. So you got to find ways to win, like it did last week. We can't pretend like they haven't done it. So you just got to do it a little longer for you to hang around for a wild card spot or whatever it is to just be in the playoff mix. And they really like waited to the last minute last year and they pulled it off. What, 6 out of 7 or 7 out of 8? I
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah, they were 3-6 at one point, so
You don't
they've
want to
been.
do that, but
Yeah, I know.
it shows that they've done it right.
Yeah,
So I think it's too early to press the panic button. I think we do know the mistakes are there, the real ones. We know which ones are going to be there for the long haul and what's going to take work. But hey, like maybe study what the Vikings did to Jordan Love there, who had great stats, but like a lot of it was like after they were playing from behind from 28-0. So you get a little more comfortable. Brian Flores backs off a little bit. So see what they did to throw him off. So I just want to see Chris Shula, learn from this first quarter of the season and just have guys in position. It's hard to scheme up takeaways, right? But
yeah,
you got to have some help here while you're waiting for the injury bug to go away for the offense. But I'm not gonna let Sean McVay off the hook, like you mentioned, Victor.
yeah, I
It
know.
was a brutal day all around.
Yeah, and I mean, as much credit as I gave him last week for doing all this with, like I said, but a bunch of scraps. He didn't do as well in this game, and I think he deserves the loss. As much as we want to say that some of the things haven't improved defensively, they pretty much allow the offense to be able to stay in this game and win this game. They had an opportunity, as I said, late in the game to be able um to win this game, and unfortunately they couldn't come back again. But I wanted to get to this comment here from Evan Holt, since he says, I think you touched on it, Vic, that Rams missed Ernest Jones in a big way. And yeah, Gilbert. I mean, I still don't understand this trade. I'll never understand this trade. The Rams can spin it any way they want, but I'll never understand why they needed to trade him. You still had him for another year. There was no reason to go ahead and trade him.
Yeah, you need more playmakers. You need more leaders. You need more guys that know how to do their assignments. You need talent, and they're lacking outside of the front. There's not much talent, and then the problem is your talent up front is young, so they're all trying to
Yeah,
figure it out. And you have a young defensive coordinator, so when you needed something to be consistent or familiar or has been around, been a leader, won a Super Bowl, and you just go ahead and ship them. I don't want to make that the whole season long theme for why they're not doing well defensively because Les Need put the secondary together, and that's the real problem. They haven't fixed
yeah,
anything in over a year. So you get to face now Jordan Love and all his weapons, Jaden
yeah,
Reed and Dontavius Wicks. And can you do that secondary? I don't think so because I haven't seen
yeah.
anything. So,
And
uh,
they're gonna run the ball too, man.
oh
Like
yeah,
that's the
Josh
thing.
Jacobs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they have a young offensive line there that they're gonna. I mean, previewing that game is going to be a lot to kind of get into, but we'll get to it on Wednesday night, Gilbert. I wanted to get to a couple more comments. I know you have to go pretty soon, and so we'll end the show there since we got most of our thoughts in here. But Evan Holt says, I think I had Ernest Jones been there in the first game, they might have won that one too. So yeah, I mean they've missed Ernest Jones a lot. I feel like, especially trading him right before the season starts. And we talked about it during training camp. He was the vocal leader. That he is who Aaron Donald said, yeah, he's going to be the leader now. He's now the leader of this team going forward. And for you to just trade him, like I said, it hasn't sat well with me. It hasn't sat well with a lot of the Ramily. Whether you're talking about fans or you're talking about people who cover this team. I know a lot of people are not haven't been happy. We have the Warm as well. He says, to think that McVay will suddenly have an epiphany and change up his play calling, especially in the red zone, it's sadly a pipe dream. So yeah, a lot of people are not holding back in terms of what they have to say about Sean McVay, Gilbert.
Yeah, you got to fix your resume problems very quickly, and you can't wait for the bye week to figure that out. Because you want to go into the bye week 2-3, not 1-4, and that's when you start feeling the pressure. So, we'll see. But yeah, it's not a 1 year or 1 game thing with Sean McVay in the red zones. It's been over a few years now. Obviously, he won that Super Bowl in 21, but in 22 was a rough year. 23 kind of struggled in the red zone before they figure it out. So we'll see what they do, but sometimes it does suck that you can't have your best players out there to make it easier for you
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, but at the same time, we give him all the praise, and it's okay to criticize him, especially when he comes up short like that and he makes some, mistakes in terms of his play calling or, some of those things that don't go their way. I mean, I understand it. It's okay to criticize him. He was not good, and a lot of the times he puts it on him. He puts a blame, and he'll say, hey, this loss was on me, and we just feel like that today that was on him, Gilbert.
I thought today he said his team was making a lot of mistakes and not having discipline. So maybe a little bit of the blame's on you guys today. I don't.
Oh wow.
I really took a quick glance at the quotes there, saying that yeah, I don't recognize his team and they weren't disciplining a lot of mistakes. So I don't know. Maybe he's feeling the frustrations too.
Yeah, and then the Warm he says, "What is McVay's record after the Super Bowl?" So they went what 5-12,
Yeah,
and then last year they went 10-7. So
it's
you
kind of
add the
even, but
so
yeah,
yeah, it's about a
or worse.
500 record.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you're counting this year too, it's definitely not a winning record, but 22 and 23 kind of even now. But yeah, I
right.
get what you're saying.
Yeah, so it hasn't been a and I mean they're pretty much rebuilding on the run. I mean, last season he did a great job what they were able to do. I think now, you know, falling to 1-3, I think you have to look at this going forward, Gilbert, as we give our final thoughts. I think you have to look this as a month to month thing. You got to see how you do in October. You went 1-3 in September. Now you move on to October and you try to go 3-1, 2-2. Try to get yourself back. And I think part of it too, Gilbert, is now you get the bye as well after this Packers game, and you hope that you win that game, you get to 2-3, and then you go into the bye feeling good. So I think that would be my final thoughts in terms of, hey, you put this game and you learn from it, and now you get ready for a Packers team who's going to be angry, and they got Jordan Love back, and so it's going to be a tough game, especially when you know that SoFi is going to be invaded by Packers fans.
Yeah, it's probably way too early to start thinking like standings and seedings, but like that NFC North is going to be competitive. Might get 3 teams there. You see the Seahawks being 3-0. The 49ers are starting to wake up where they covered against the Patriots there. They
Yeah.
dominated. So yeah, at some point you got to feel the heat a little bit. I don't think we're at that point, but I got to keep repeating myself. Like now that you're at the first quarter mark, you know what your real problems are. You know who you are, and they're definitely not a winning team right now. You got to look past the injuries. You got to grow up quickly on defensively. You got to do better as a coach, Sean McVay, Chris Shula. So things like that. But on top of my head, I'm really kicking myself for not picking the Commanders to be in the NFC playoffs because the Cardinals, the Bears, and the Bears don't look good right now. But the Bears are 2-2.
Yeah, and the NFC, honestly, nobody's gonna run away with it, Gilbert. I mean, nobody's saying the Vikings are the contender. They're 4-0, but nobody's gonna be saying, oh yeah, they're a legit Super Bowl contender. And so the NFC is wide open, so you still have a shot. And the whole league, it's been a weird year, Gilbert, so far. As we said, a lot of people were saying, oh yeah, by the fourth week, the trend's gonna switch back. It's not, man. Like, this is what we're seeing. We're seeing the
Yeah.
the transition in quarterbacks. We saw two rookie quarterbacks beat two of the veterans in Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford. So it tells you that we're going through a
Yeah.
transition now, Gilbert, from where we're going from the old guard to the new guard, and then so the new guard is starting to kind of transition, trying to figure out, and right now defense are dominating, Gilbert.
Yeah, good point. The rookies went 3-0. Jaden, Caleb, and Bo Nix there, and yeah, you never know. Like even teams like the Broncos were like they just beat the Buccaneers and the Jets on their road. Are they for real? So sometimes it's kind of like okay, we could maybe stop pretending that these surprise teams are not going to be good and just say they're going to be good. Like the Vikings and who knows, the Broncos might be too soon, but the Commanders could be one. We could just say they're going to be hanging around. So at some point, like if you're trying to put a little more pressure on the Rams, it's like, hey, these teams that you're looking at, they're probably going to be for reals, and they're going to be hanging around for a while. So pick it up and join that party, because maybe the 49ers will wake up late. Maybe the Lions will stop being so sluggish offensively, and soon you look up and like, ah, crap, all the good teams from last year are good, and there's like a handful of surprise teams, and look at where we are. So.
Yeah.
I know I started the show saying it's too early, but at some point you do got to pick up the urgency. And I think this is going to be a big test, like you mentioned at home against the Packers. You just beat the 49ers at home, so don't think about this big time matchup here. The Packers are 2-2. They're not a 4-0 team. So
Yeah.
go into the bye week and look in the mirror, but you don't want to look in the mirror when you're 1-4 because you're probably going to say, "Ah, crap, I think we're screwed."
Yeah, and I'll go back to it. I mean, I'm not trying to be positive in terms of like, hey, I'm trying to, make you guys feel better, but the NFC is wide open. There's not like teams running away from, this conference, and a team is probably going to get in there, Gilbert, at 9-8, 10-7. So
Yeah,
you still have an opportunity to, and then the Eagles are two. What are they? 1, 2, and 2, I think.
2-2.
Yeah. So
The Saints who started hot, they're 2-2.
two. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like I said, I just don't think that. I don't think that the NFC someone's gonna run away with it. Let me get to these comments and we'll close
Oh,
things up.
Dan,
Yeah, I
trying
know.
to
I
trying
saw.
to trying to recover after a loss.
Yeah. Delver says got to admit rooting for the Lions on Monday. I'm sure a lot of Ram
Mm.
fans will be too as well. Peter Rossetti says, "Turn the lights out. The party's over." You know what this reminds me of? There's a there. I'm going back to a movie, and it's Major League Two. There's a guy who just for the Indians. He's like one of the fans. He's just like, I'm done with this team. They're never gonna win anything, and he just gives up. He's like, turn off the lights, the party's over, and he's like, let's just go. And then it's not till he sees the Wild thing, finally show up as himself, that he's like, okay, we're back now. I think this is what it reminds me of. And the Worm says, I went to the Vikings Texans game last week, and the
Mm.
Vikings look complete. If they can protect Darnold, they will go for a great atmosphere at that stadium. So, yep,
Yeah,
that's
they're
yeah,
definitely the best team in the NFC right now, and you could go
yeah,
into Dan's comment. He's gonna keep
yeah. He's
trolling
like
me.
Minnesota.
Well,
Uh,
I still don't think they're gonna be the best team in the NFC come December, but I do know that the best team is gonna be in pro football for a very long time. The Kansas City Chiefs 7-game winning streak over your Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, and then a couple more comments here. BC says go Rams, and then he says whose house. And I got to bring this up, Gilbert, because it sounds like the Bears stadium people were trolling
Oh,
the
really?
this whole the whole whose house. So remember this in case they face each other again, maybe in the playoffs or maybe down the road. So he says embarrassing loss. And then one more here from our guy G says time has come to trade Stafford and
Oh,
release or trade Cup. you can get a few picks and free up cap space.
That could
So
definitely be a scenario if things
yeah,
don't pick up very soon. That's
yeah,
actually a good thing, but we won't think about that just yet
yes, yeah.
fully. But yeah, it's in the back of my mind. I like that.
Do you have a 12 pack player of the game for this? You can even go with a Bears guy if you don't feel like anybody from the Rams did anything.
No, I go with a guy that you mentioned, and I go with the two wide receivers. It's a tough ask, to
Yeah.
beat Puka and Cooper Cup, but you're making plays for Matthew Stafford to give him a chance. Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, like you mentioned, Jordan Whittington. Hopefully, he finds a role when those guys come back because he's doing the dirty work, like you said.
Yes.
I think he had maybe the most receptions today. Tutu Atwell had the most yards, so that's 2 games in a row where they're making enough plays to help out. They're gonna need a lot more plays if you find yourself in a shootout with the Packers, but at least in the back of your mind, these guys have been answering the call, and maybe you do have a fighting chance there against an explosive offense like that.
Yeah, and it's been disappointing to see Demarcus Robinson. I thought
Yeah,
he was gonna thrive in with those guys gone, and I think he's been a major disappointing this
I think he
season.
needs those guys to do
Yeah,
something.
he needs those guys in order to thrive in this offense. The Worm says Kyron had a nice games, and then G says Rams should reach out to Miami and Indy now while their QBs are hurt. Best
Mm,
returns are right now, so we will see. I don't think they're gonna punt on the season yet. I think you want to wait till after the where you're at after the bye week and then go from there. I mean, and then that's part of the reason why um they push back the trading deadline, Gilbert, to week 10, so you'll have enough time, and you'll get the same return now that you will by week 10 if that's what you decide to do. So there's no reason to do it now. And then for me, I said it earlier, Gilbert. I'll stick to it. I'll give it to the Bears punter, Torrey Taylor.
mm.
I mean, 5 punts, 277 yards, three of them coming inside. He won that game for the Bears. I'm sorry, it wasn't anything that Matt Eberflus or that offense or that defense did. Yeah, they turned the momentum, but that punter pinning the Rams inside the 20, especially on that last drive when the Rams really needed a short field. I thought that was the game for me, and yeah, I give my 12 pack to that punter because there's a reason they traded up. I remember everybody made fun of the Bears for trading up in the fourth round and picking a punter, and I mean, sometimes special teams win you games. We've talked about this, Gilbert, and he did that for the Bears. I mean, right now the Bears are 2-0 because of their defense and their special teams, man. It's not because of their offense.
Yeah, uh, yeah, but sometimes you got to find ways to win a game, and like the Bears did with that partner, and you're two and
Yes,
two, and that
yes.
feels so much better than being 1-3.
Yeah, he says big speaks the truth, but we got to go, Gilbert. We got all our frustration out. We said everything we needed to say in this post game show. The Rams fall to 1-3 now as they get ready for the Packers. We will be on Wednesday night for our live show to preview the matchup between the Rams and the Packers. So join us then. We can't wait. But for now, Gilbert, it's that's all I have for you. We get ready for Wednesday. We turn the page. We let our frustration out, and then we get ready for Wednesday. We preview the matchup between the Packers and the Rams.
Yeah, well, it's a new week for week 5. We look forward to Wednesday. See you guys there for the live, and we appreciate everybody that jumped on the channel here to share their thoughts. Even the trolls here, like Dan and Angel. But shout out to the Worm, Gvar and BC and Delbert, Evan, some familiar names too. So that's very cool to see. But it's time to get going. Sunday Night Football's coming at you, Bills and the Ravens, and for the Rams' sake, hopefully the Seahawks to lose on Monday Night Football. So we still got 3 more games to go. On that note, ya nos vamos, pues.